On this episode of Current Read, I have with me international best-selling author Alka Joshi, whose historical fiction has transported me, along with millions of readers from around the world, to the pink city of Jaipur in the 1950s, to Shimla at the foothills of the Himalayas, to the streets of 1930s Bombay, to the tea houses of Istanbul, and to several cities across a pre-World War II Europe, including Prague, Paris, Florence, and London. Alka Joshi is author of the beloved Jaipur Trilogy, a sweeping literary sensation that has been translated into, I believe, 29 languages and celebrated around the world for its vivid portrayal of women, identity, ambition, and belonging. Alka Joshi, we have so much to get into, so much. Welcome to TGE's Current Read.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
So, in my world, you burst onto the literary scene. There's a sticker here, a very telling sticker. You burst on as a Reese's Book Club pick, which is, it was a May 2020, which was a telling time because there was a surge in readership as everybody was locked in their houses. So that was a great time, I think, to also be an author. But I would imagine that you didn't write a book in 2019, have it published in 2020 and land a spot on one of the most coveted celebrity book clubs.
Hardly anybody does. One of the things I found out in this writing journey is that most authors take about 4 to 10 years to write that first novel. Mm-hmm. And sometimes if it takes them even a little bit longer, it's because they already wrote a couple of novels that they've got sitting in a desk drawer somewhere before they wrote the one that was actually published.
True story. Do you have one of those, or is the Henna Artist it?
No,
is that your draw? Is this your draw story?
This is really an amazing type of, I think, life experience. I never intended to become a writer. I never thought of myself as a novelist. I only wanted to write this one sort of alternate story of my mother, a life in which she could have had far more independence. She could have been able to determine her own future. And so this is why I created that main character who looks like my mother, but then everything diverges from there, from the reality of her life and into this alternate life that I created. That's all I ever wanted to write. It's so interesting that from there, we ended up having 3 main characters for whom I could even continue the story and then also write the subsequent 2 novels. I didn't have a game plan. It wasn't like I planned the whole series out, but the publisher kept asking for more and more and more. So this is how it happened. And even with the 6th novel that I write, I'm going to return to these characters. So it will be Trilogy Plus.
I love this. So off camera, and I had explained to you before, we have the secret keeper of Jaipur, and we decided to keep her, or I decided to keep her separate because perchance I think The Perfumist of Paris, book 3 in the trilogy, is sadly on my side table. I thought I had her, but I had a pile of books, and when I got here to the studio,
I love the fact that you're calling the books her.
Oh, yes. Well, of course I am. What I love is that you've kept it all in the family, and that we're looking at different decades and we're looking at different periods of history that Lakshmi and her family and her adopted family all kind of ride the waves of life together.
Exactly.
And across the world as well.
Yes. I think one of the things that I'm trying to convey is that there is not just a single story to Indian women, that Indian women are, they span every form of life. Some of them are mothers, some of them are not mothers. Some of them go on to become educated women with a highly skilled job, and other ones don't. But they all have a common goal of taking care of their families, making sure that the children are well fed and taken care of. I think that another thing I want to say is that the Indian diaspora is huge, that there are South Asians all over the world. And wherever South Asians go, as in The Perfumist of Paris. We've got Radha in Paris and has made a life for herself there with a Parisian husband and her 2 children. Wherever they go, they are somehow able to maintain a sense of tradition as well as adopting all of the sort of cultural aspects of their new country. So I want people to sort of understand that Indians are very adaptable. They are extremely capable of learning new environments. And so for me, this is supremely important in these novels. Yesterday, we were at Exclusive Books in Durban at the airport as we were taking off for Johannesburg.
Yes.
And the salesperson there, the bookseller there, told me something completely unscripted, like I had no idea she was going to say this, but she said, you know, the people who ask for your books are from all over the world. They are not just of South Asian descent. They are coming from all over the world through this airport, and they all want to know if we have the latest Alka Joshi book. Now, that was music to my ears because my whole purpose in writing these books was so that we would have a global platform on which to talk about South Asian lives and the history of India and what a rich heritage people of South Asia come from.
So you're mentioning the Indian diaspora and South Asian diaspora and people in particular, but your characters and your novels are all quite femicentric.
Yes.
Your protagonists navigate questions of agency, survival, power, ambition, independence within deeply patriarchal systems. I think, and this is really just my own take as a quiet observer, that the world can often see Indian women as disempowered because of the deeply patriarchal roots. But Lakshmi, Nimi, Radha, Meera, Sona, the Maharanis, all the women in your books are actually so empowered. They are all characters who push against the status quo. Is this intentional? Is it just because you're very character-led as a writer. So what are those characters just calling to you? Is it a reality? What is your experience in this? How or why have you given voice to these women in this way?
I think that in some ways it is absolute reality. I think that Indian women have an indirect way of getting what they want rather than a very direct way. And in the West, women are allowed to be very direct in what they want and what they need. But in India...
There's a lot of pushback against that.
Exactly.
Where women are allowed in demanding their needs in a Western culture.
Yes.
I'm loving where you're going with this. Please keep on.
Yes. And in India, they're not often allowed to stake their claim on something, on a need or a want. And they have indirect ways of going about and having that happen. I learned that from the way my mother handled my father. I love my dad, but he was raised as a patriarchal husband. He felt that his duty was to make sure that his family was provided for and that we were highly educated because that was the sort of pedigree he came from, and it was very important for him.
You say you have 2 brothers.
I have 2 brothers.
Where are you in the ranking?
I am in the middle.
Okay.
I am the peacemaker.
Okay.
And so I just saw that she had a way of shifting focus when my father was being resistant to something that one of us wanted to have happen. I also saw that she would find ways to make her case that were very different from the way I saw American women making their case. And so I realized that sometimes women have hidden power that they are not obvious about because it wouldn't do them justice to reveal that they had all that power. But I think women are very intelligent in the way they go about wielding that power. So yes, some of the women in my book have agency to begin with and feel that they can claim it in many different ways. But some of the women actually find agency as they go along and find that it's okay for them to be asking for what they want and need, and that they have a good shot of getting it.
That I hesitate to call it manipulation, but that realization of the power that you have. So your protagonist, Lakshmi and Sona, discover their power and their agency. But you have characters like Parvati,
Yes.
who knows her power and is strong in her power. And I mean, I don't want to give too much away in the book, but you do have you've got a spectrum of women, and you've really explored all these characters have spoken to you in that way.
I have had so many readers ask me about Lakshmi being a manipulator. Like, why did you make her such a manipulator? And Parvati, I guess you can also say, is a manipulator. But I prefer to use the word strategist.
Nice.
These women are strategizing how to get what they want. I think that when men are in this same position, they are called strategists, and
Absolutely.
they are given the power to be that and to be lauded for it in a way that women are not. So I love to think that these two women and all the women in my book are strategizing how to go along in their lives. At the end of 6 Days in Bombay, Sona has a big decision to make. And she strategizes, as I had to strategize as the writer in 1937, what would a woman in her position do? And I had to think about, she could go in this direction, but no, this is why that wouldn't work. She could go in direction B, but I think I understand why that wouldn't work. So she chooses direction C. And I think it is the way in which women handle every aspect of their life. I think that they are able to see many different sides of an issue and figure out which path to take. They have to do it with their children. They have to do it in their relationship with their spouses. And they have to do it with their family, with their larger extended family. So I think women are not often given credit for being the great strategizers that they are.
Add that to the list of kind of euphemisms that we use for men that we don't apply to women. Manipulator versus strategist.
Yes.
So, Alka, bear with me here. I've got a long journey to take. I'm going to ask you to hold me accountable for all my brain fog. I know that you're familiar with brain fog.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Because we're juggling a lot as women, right?
Yes.
I'm going to go back because you have such strong parallels to two women that I'd love to bring up. Firstly, your career in advertising reminds me so much of a story that author Bonnie Garmis, who wrote Lessons in Chemistry, told. Her first chapter of Lessons in Chemistry came out of a rage writing session at her desk after she was kind of thumbed down in a meeting by men in the advertising agency. And I know that you started out in the advertising agency and that this was your experience. So there's been a whole journey of even you personally, like interpersonally as a woman, coming into your own. So you started in advertising and then?
Yes, and I can totally relate to Bonnie Garmis. I was also often in a round table, a conference table where we're presenting our creative ideas with the creative director, and I'm the only woman in the room, and my ideas are shot down. I think they're every bit as good as any of the men's ideas. I also found that sometimes the creative director was pulling the men into meetings for juicy projects that I was not a part of, that I was not called into. And when I would go to my bosses and say, excuse me, but I really feel like I should be part of this meeting too, or, can you tell me why my idea wasn't as lauded as this other person's idea. And I was told I was a troublemaker. Now, isn't it interesting that my ambition is somehow put down as a negative, and a guy who might come in and say that might be considered, oh, you know what? He is well assertive. We like the way that this guy thinks, and his ambition will do him good in life. So I encountered very much that same kind of rage, and eventually my rage translated into founding my own agency and realizing that I had all the skills I needed to have my own clients, to have my own work, and to manage my own work, and to do a great job at it. And that's what I did for 20 years. And I cannot tell you how much satisfaction there is as a woman in having your own work product and your own clients, and being able to say, this is my fabulous work, and I want you to love it as much as I do.
And I believe you made 4 times as much in your first year as what you did as what you did working for a company.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, it's such, your story across the board, even in your start as a writer, is so inspirational. Also, that the Henna Artist you started in, or you embarked on an MA, a Master's in Creative Writing.
Yes.
In 2008 or just after, during the economic downturn.
Right.
But how did you know that you were going to weather the economic downturn? There are just two people. There's two types of people in these situations. There are those who kind of lay down and wait in despair, and then there's you.
I had already been through 2 economic recessions. And so I knew that sometimes what I did was pivot. There are certain industries that do well during a recession and certain industries that don't. So if I had clients in the industries that were failing, I would go look for a client in one of the industries that was doing well. And so I had pivoted before. One time I actually went traveling because I just thought, this is a good time for me to take some time off that I didn't get to do. When you're running your own agency, you're working 24/7.
Absolutely,
oftentimes, 2:00 in the morning. And then with this third recession, I thought, wow, this is the big kahuna. This is a huge recession. And so I think for 2 years, I need to just be dark. I still had some business, but it wasn't enough to really keep me busy. And I like to be busy. So that's when I thought, why don't I enter one of these intensive programs where I learn how to write? Because my husband has been telling me for the last 15 years, honey, you should be writing stories. You should be writing novels. I think you could be really good at it. And the kinds of things that you're writing or the stories that you're telling me about India are really interesting to me. I have not read those stories before, heard those stories before. I would like to know. So I told him about the time that my father had shot a cobra when we lived in Rajasthan. And then I told him about the time that we went up to Shimla in the summers when Rajasthan got too hot. We would go up to the Shimla mountains, and my mother would tell us, "Don't feed the monkeys. There are monkeys everywhere. Don't feed the monkeys." Of course, we didn't listen to her, and then eventually the monkeys caught up to us and stole our food and threw us down. Like they actually will push you down on the ground.
It sounds like Durban.
Yeah, exactly. We saw the monkeys in Durban, and I wasn't fazed at all because I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is just like Shimla." So my husband had said, you should write these stories down. So I start writing the stories in my MFA program. And all of a sudden, everybody is intrigued. And my instructors are very complimentary, and they encourage me. And, when you get that kind of encouragement, you just keep at it. And so at the end of 2 years, I had the Henna Artist as my thesis. I had thesis advisors who were really pushing me to, keep working on it and get it published somehow. So eventually that is what I ended up doing.
Did you see your experiences in India? And this was all because you immigrated to the US when you were 9. You were 9 when you landed on American soil.
Right.
And so you'd had a whole, I'm thinking my eldest son is 9, and he's got so many stories to tell. So you were sitting on this rich mine of information.
Yes.
Did you realize before your husband had said, before your supervisors in the MFA program had recognized these stories as interesting, had you kind of thought, actually, I've got all of this to offer. I'm sitting on this gold mine of information.
Not at all. It just came as a total surprise to me. What I had read in books about India, these are fiction books, were stories of immigration, Jhumpa Lahiri, stories of poverty, a fine balance, and stories of the partition. So Salman Rushdie.
Yes.
So those are the kind of stories that I had read. I had not read anything that sort of captured just daily living in India in the 50s and 60s. And I think that's what my husband was trying to tell me all that time is nobody else is writing these stories. You need to write these stories. So when I started to write, I wanted to capture this alternate life for my mother. It was just about women living in the 1950s, many different kinds of women. Women from the upper classes, women of royal families, women of the lower skilled labor, women who have children, women who don't have children, you know. And I just wanted to capture what life might have been like in the 1950s, a little bit past independence time.
I love also that the more you kind of scratch at the surface. So you started with your own stories, but then there are threads that you pull at. I'm talking about like, oh, I'm going to scratch there, but hang on, what's this? And so the artist that inspired 6 Days in Bombay was similar to that, where you're Amrit Shergay, right?
Yes.
Tell me more about that, because that's the beauty of historical fiction as well, which I love that you leaned into this as a genre. You could have done memoir.
Yes.
100% you could have been an inspiring memoirist, but you went into fiction, historical fiction, and there is just it's so rich. You could be writing for decades, which I hope you are. But speak more about that, and we are going to get back to. Remember my brain fog moment? I said there was a second woman. We're going to get back to that second woman. Okay. But I do want to talk about the inspiration for 6 Days in Bombay.
I do so much research because remember, I only have memories of India until the age of 9, so I wasn't old enough to understand the history of India pre-independence, and I didn't really understand, the post-independence sort of energy that was happening all around me. Because I was born in that energy. So I didn't realize it was different from the way that life used to be for Indians before independence.
You were born in the late 1950s.
Yes, 1958.
And independence was 1947.
47.
Okay, so it was new.
Yes.
It's a lot like I think a lot of South Africans can relate we call them born frees.
Yes.
So you were a born free.
Yes, exactly.
In India.
Exactly. And so I have to do research on the history of India, how, going all the way back to the 1600s, oftentimes. I have to learn how we got to where we were, the time period that I'm actually writing about. I have to research in 6 Days in Bombay what was the life of Amrita Shergill in the 1930s. And I find out so many fascinating things about her.
Who is Amrita Shergill?
Okay, so I'll tell you. She was a Hungarian Jewish Indian painter. Her mother was Hungarian. She was born in Budapest, and her father was this wealthy son of a sugar factory owner in India. And so the family was constantly traveling between Europe and India, and Amrita grew up wanting for nothing. She had piano lessons, violin lessons. She had major classes with painting tutors because she showed a real talent for painting very early on. Her mother was taking her all over Europe to study with master painters from the age of 8. So she had this amazingly rich lifestyle. And she became the youngest woman ever to be admitted to the Grand Salon of Paris after completing her work at the École des Beaux-Arts. She was the only Asian ever admitted at that time. And so I think that she grew up very confident, very much aware of her ability, and also very aware of her beauty and sexuality. And so she was promiscuous, she was precocious, and really was interested in life as it's lived in all its extremities. So you can imagine she was an iconoclast as a personality, but also as a painter. She was combining Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, Surrealism, all within the same canvas. And I just found her work really fascinating. I have a degree in art history.
I was just going to say, you have to be an art fundi to have written 6 Days in Bombay.
Yes.
Because there's so much richness and authenticity to the way you write about art in the novel.
Yes. And I know I'm not a biographer, so I knew I wouldn't be writing a biography about Amrita, but I could fictionalize her personality in the character of Mira, who is a famous artist. Now, then you have to think, where do I start the novel? I could start it from her birth. I could start it, upon her death. And I thought her death might be interesting because in the real case of Amrita Shergill, her death was never explained. And she was 28 years old. The year is 1941. She's about to put on the biggest exhibition of her life in Lahore, India. And she has a little bit of a tummy trouble. Her husband takes her into the hospital, maybe a little bit later than he should have. And within 2 days, she falls into a coma and dies. And my question was, well, first of all, how does a healthy, vibrant woman go into a hospital and die like that? So
28-year-old woman.
Yes, so young. And now there were several ideas on how this might have happened. One was that maybe she had a botched abortion. She had already, in her real life, Amrita had had 2 abortions. She really liked sex. And so, at a time when...
Stands to reason.
Yes, there's no birth control pill. Otherwise, I'm sure she would have taken one. She... sometimes people thought that maybe she had a miscarriage, maybe something with sepsis, maybe an ectopic pregnancy, who knows? So I thought, well, maybe I'll start with a death and use that as a way of trying to figure out how she might have died. Why don't I use this story to just put forward another theory of how she might have died? And so if I start with the death, who's going to carry the story forward? And that is where Sona comes in. Sona wasn't even on my radar when I first started thinking about writing about Amrita Shergill, but I thought, through whose eyes should we see the real woman?
This is the fascinating part, because Mira, the character who you based on Amrita Shergill, is not the primary protagonist.
No.
Sona is.
It's the first time I've ever written a book like this.
This is I think, the genius of the novel. Sorry, I interrupted.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, it's okay, because we're on the ground with someone living. Where are we? We're in Bombay. I'm
Yes.
like, I've been in Jaipur, I've been in Shimla, I've been in many different places.
Yes.
No, we're in Bombay,
Yes.
the old Mumbai, with Sona, and we're seeing what things look like for life for a woman on the ground. And then you bring in also the Anglo-Indians.
Yes.
And now I'm jumping 10 steps further. So carry on saying
Yes.
what you were saying about Sona coming in, and you hadn't expected her.
Yes. And so what happened is, we were talking a little while ago about research, when I have to do research. Well, I thought, now who is working in a private hospital in Bombay in 1937? And I found out that only the British or people with British blood were allowed to work in private hospitals, because there they would be paid more, there would be more promotional opportunities and so on. And, we are still, remember, under the British Raj, so British people rule. And so I thought, well, the nurse then who is taking care of this painter is going to have to be somehow British. And I thought, well, what if she was Anglo-Indian? Then I realized I don't know anything about Anglo-Indians, so maybe I should do some research. And I found out that in the 1600s, a British East India Company brought over all of these men to work on their various concerns, but they didn't bring over any women. And the men got lonely. They needed company. And the British East India Company thought it was best to provide silver to these men for the women, the Indian women whom they formed alliances with and had children with, because then those children could be the bridge between the two cultures and the two languages, English and whatever native language there was. And it wasn't just the British who did that. The Dutch did that. The Portuguese did that. The French did that.
So talk about a patriarchally friendly way to incentivize sex. Right? If the women were coming in and doing, they wouldn't be incentivized, but the women, how do we make this okay?
Yes.
I know there's a lot more
We're
to
gonna
it,
pay.
but we're politicizing it and we're making it okay in this way, because what political upper hand might we have by blending Indians with the British?
I
right?
love that. That's a great take. That is brilliant. Yes.
From a woman's perspective, it would be like, no, you may not. But from the men's perspective, it's okay, because guess what? It's okay.
Right, exactly. And then for the women, what they were saying is that, if your child is going to have this white blood, and if they have European blood, then look, they're going to have better educational opportunities, better work opportunities. So,
Which in theory was great, but it wasn't that beneficial for everybody.
not for everybody, but most Anglo-Indians were then taken care of, put in positions of administration. So it worked out well for them. Sometimes their fathers would take them to their homeland once their stint in India was over, and then these children would be raised as Europeans, and that worked out well for those. Sometimes a European father would only raise them in India because his pension would go farther in India, or maybe he'd fallen in love with the country and he didn't want to leave. So those children...
Or the women that he was with, he loved more than his wife at home.
Yes, exactly. And then there was that third category where they had a wife at home whom they did not tell their Indian wife about, and they returned to that wife and that family in their home country and left the Anglo-Indian children in a lurch. And that is exactly what happened to Sona, our nurse. And I thought, well, now this is more fascinating.
This is juicy.
This is juicy because now we've got a young woman who is taking advantage of that British blood by having had better opportunities and better paying job. But she's also very upset that she has a father who abandoned her when she was only 3 years old.
And she has memories of him.
And she has memories of him.
Which
yes.
surprises her mother because she was only 3.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, look, like when I said you scratched at the surface or you started to pull at a thread, and it's just like,
yes,
just this beautiful
I can go down
narrative.
I can go down so many rabbit holes every time I do research. And frankly, sometimes I use it as procrastination because
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
And it's hard to write. It's a hard task.
Yes.
And so I think it's far more interesting to learn about Anglo-Indians. I think I'm just going to start watching a couple of YouTube videos and, maybe some documentaries. And before I know it, 3 days have gone by and I have not written a word.
Oh, no. Look, I do get you, and you're allowed to procrastinate, but I think that it brought so much richness to 6 days in Bombay.
Yeah.
I want to pivot back quickly to the Henna, maybe not quickly, but the Henna Artist was a love letter to your mother. And this is how I haven't forgotten my brain fog moment. I'm very impressed with myself. It reminds me so much, and I know that you're familiar with this novel, so let's incentivize this woman to write more. Joanne Joseph is a South African writer. You'll be speaking with her soon.
Yes.
Who wrote Children of Sugarcane. And I feel like in the same way that your early advertising career and your rage mirrored that of Bonnie Garmis, the way that you wanted to honor your mother is the same with the Henna Artist, is the same way that Joanne wanted to honor her predecessors.
Yes.
The people who came over from India, her family.
Yes.
She also wanted to delve into that. She wanted to imagine what it might have been like,
yes,
for her predecessors.
Exactly.
And wrote this beautiful novel, Children of Sugarcane. She says it's going to be her last. I'm going to work on her. If you could just, I'll take her from this side.
I'll try to push her.
You take her from this side. But talk to me about your mother in that way. You've touched on your mother, but there really is just a beautiful kind of closed loop circle that happens where Lakshmi finds her agency, her voice, love. She finds love. She has choice. She utilizes that choice. And she's not a manipulator. She's a strategist. She's such a great character.
Yeah.
And I love that she shows up again and again.
Yeah.
In the trilogy. So talk to me about this love letter to your mother.
Okay. I don't think I really realized who my mother was until I got older. Maybe in my 40s, I started to see, maybe in my 50s, because a lot of times we just see our mother as the person who takes care of us, our every need. We can go to her if we're having, a sad moment or a loss of some kind. She'll make everything better. And then I started to see her as her own separate person. And I saw that there were moments in her life and in her marriage and in her relationship with other people that were not serving her, and that she knew that. And I think having the ability to see her as a separate person from just being my mother was something that I wanted to fix. Like, I wrote her a very long letter, and it was all on legal pad because that's what I had handy at the time. I wrote her 6 pages and just said, Mom, you deserve a better life. You deserve a life of happiness. You deserve something that brings you joy every day. And if this life is not serving you, I will support you in whatever way you need to create that life. 2 years later, my mother called me and said, okay, I have filed for divorce and I am coming to live closer to you and Brad, my husband. And I was completely floored because I had forgotten by that time that I'd written this letter to her. And I think that it took so much courage for her, an Indian woman who had always thought that she would be married for life in the arranged marriage that her father had made for her. And also, I think my father, who thought that he should be in that arranged marriage for the rest of his life. I think it was really important for her to take a step that was not scripted for her life and to be able to say, I deserve a life of my own choosing. And so I picked her up at the airport and she said, honey, that's the first time I've ever taken a flight all by myself. And then she used her money to buy herself a condo. She went around with my husband and looked at a whole bunch of property. And I think that what was important for her about that is that she had never been asked before in her marriage where she wanted to live, what she wanted to do. She found a whole group of people whom she enjoyed being with. She had a bridge club. She was actually a fantastic bridge player and loved social bridge. And so, she found her own community and she blossomed in a way that I had never realized she could. I also found out that she had a great sense of humor, and she and my husband shared that humor together. So I wanted for my mother what she never had for herself. And it was lovely to be able to convey that whole experience of a woman finding herself through Lakshmi in the Henna Artist.
That has given me goosebumps that your mother found that moment. Had she wanted even to come over from India?
No, she never did. In fact, that's one of the things that she told me when she and I were in India in 2008 and 2009. I was so surprised when she was taking me around to all of the places that she wanted me to take, to all the bazaars with saris and bangles and jewelry and all of that. She said, honey, I never wanted to go to America. I love India. I love everything here. I love the food. I love the clothing. I love the saris. But your dad never asked me whether I wanted to go. It was just a decision that he made. And then all of a sudden, I was taking my 3 children across an ocean to live in a whole separate land in a language that I wasn't particularly comfortable in. She had been, of course, like a lot of Indians, she had been in school and learned English, but she had never spoken a lot of English. So conversationally, she was at a loss. Whereas we kids, kids pick up language really easily. So we were able to pick up the language easily. Dad was at work talking in English all day. And so, we were all just constantly speaking in English. And she was the only one sort of left behind a little bit. She had to catch up. And it took her about a dozen years to do that.
Gosh. And when we're kids, we don't acknowledge our mothers in that way until we're going through that. Until we become mothers and women, we don't realize what our mothers had been through, because unless, you have an outlier mother who tells you about it all the time. But most women, we swallow it.
Yes.
And most women of older generations are not, leaning into that. Even we speak about being perimenopausal or postmenopausal.
Yes.
It's just kind of we take it on, like we carry things. Women carry things, and your mother carried things until that moment. Well, how old were you when you wrote that 6-page notepad letter to her?
I must have been, I don't know, probably 60, maybe. No, let's see. I would have been probably 50.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, it took that long, and I think this. I hope it happens earlier for our daughters.
Yes.
That we're not burdening them with our troubles, but that we're guiding them.
Yes.
It's not a burden, but a guide, but a type of guidance.
Exactly.
Because I think a lot of women don't have that voice, or didn't have that voice, didn't have that agency, and the more we're pushing back against it, the more information we're giving our daughters.
Yes.
I live in hope.
Yes.
But a woman like you gives me hope, because you, just in your fiction, you're empowering young women to go out and take that agency.
And that's the email and the direct messages I receive all the time. Women who say, wow, this has empowered me to either take a different direction in my life or to try something that I thought I had a passion for when I was much younger, and I, want to explore that again. Or even a young woman who said, this sort of encouraged me to leave a relationship that was not serving me. And, if that has been the result, and it has empowered women to take steps that they wouldn't ordinarily have taken, I feel like my job is done. I could die tomorrow and I will be very satisfied with it.
What a testament. I love that. I don't want you to die tomorrow.
You want me to keep writing?
Please. If you don't mind.
Well, luckily I have another book coming out next year.
Tell me about it. I'm going to circle back. There's something I want to ask you about your mother coming in and not knowing the language, because there's something that I picked up on that I want to pick your brain about. But we will circle back, because my brain fog's on fire today. It's disappeared. But please tell me about the new book, because I believe you'll be delving into the courtesans.
Yes. So the new book will be out in March of next year, 2027. And it is called Daughters of the Pink City.
I love that title.
Yes. And of course, the Pink City refers to Jaipur. The year is 1920. And there is a 16-year-old girl who wants to learn the forbidden dance that the courtesans dance. The reason that it's forbidden is a very political one. And this is something I found out after I did all this research on courtesans. And I love writing about them.
More research, Alka.
Yes, more research.
You weren't writing. You weren't writing. You were researching.
I was procrastinating. So, one of the things that has fascinated me about them is how they served as places of refuge for women who were being abused by families or had no one to turn to, or were in a situation of poverty. And the courtesan houses would take them in, teach them all of these skills that they had. The women were very, very cleverly trained in literature, poetry, music, dance, all kinds of ways in which they could be entertaining.
They were artists.
They were artists, exactly. And they were like the geishas of Japan. They did not sleep with a different man every night. They had patrons who might be interested in a particular courtesan. And then that patron would have to make sure that he could support a new family that he might have had with the courtesan. So they were wealthy men who could only support a courtesan and her lifestyle. So what happened in 1857, let's go back to 1857, there was a rebellion against the British by the Indians. The Indians were saying, you have got to leave India. You have been here for already 200 years, over 200 years, and we are tired of it. And there were underground movements. There were a lot of freedom fighters. Well, the British were able to quash that rebellion. Remember, the British had guns, and the Indians only had swords. And when you are 50 feet away from somebody, you can kill somebody a lot faster with a gun. So the British quashed that rebellion and found out that the courtesans had been responsible for financing that rebellion. all over the country. The courtesans were extremely wealthy. As you know, they had the wealthy patrons. They had real estate holdings. They had businesses. They really invested their money wisely.
They were the OG girl boss.
Yes, I love that. OG girl bosses.
Indian women are formidable. Formidable.
Yes.
And if nobody came into this interview knowing that, now you know.
Now you know.
Do not mess with an Indian woman. For real.
Yes, absolutely.
I love this.
Some of these courtesans, were so powerful that their patron happened to be an emperor or a leader of a particular community, and they were able to influence politics as well. But in any event, when the British found out that the courtesans had financed that movement, they penalized them very heavily. They were already paying the highest tax of any group of Indians, and now they were penalized even further with an increase in tax. But also, they were denigrated to the position of prostitutes and subject to the same hygiene standards that prostitutes were daily. Courtesans had never before been called prostitutes before, but all of a sudden now they have a lower class reputation, and so men of status stopped coming to them as much. Many of the pleasure houses went out of business, but also what happened as a result is that anything associated with courtesans, like the dance of Kathak, was considered unsavory. And so Indian families stopped having their girls, their wives, their daughters practice Kathak, even learning Kathak.
But your protagonist...
Yes, but my protagonist has seen it being performed because there were male troops that were allowed to go around to different cities and practice the dance of Kathak. And so she has seen one of these fairs and these dances, and she's like, I want to learn that dance. That's it. That is my life. It's just like a painter who says, I love painting. I need to become a painter. Or a poet who says, oh my God, I love poetry. I need to become a poet. She is a dancer.
There's a compulsion.
First and foremost. Yes, it's a compulsion. But also it reminds her of a time when she and her mother used to dance in secret in their home because her mother wanted to dance this same kind of dance, but wasn't allowed to do that in front of anybody else. So she had taught her daughter. Her mother has been actually missing for about a year in this family structure. Nobody knows exactly where the mother went, and the girl is not able to find out. So learning this dance and remembering dancing it with her mother is a way for her to actually be closer to her mother, to feel that presence again. This dance, called Kathak, is a storytelling dance. It is no different than any kind of Bible stories that might be enacted from the Bible, only these stories are from the Ramayana. So they portray Krishna and Radha and all the different gods and all the little kind of scenes that they get into that are all described in the Ramayana. There is nothing unsavory about the dance itself. In fact, many people think of it as a precursor to ballet. It's very energetic, very fast-moving. It is danced with no shoes, so your feet are connected to the ground. It is a way of centering yourself and grounding yourself to the earth. It is a phenomenal, phenomenal dance.
Look at where your thread pulling got you now.
Yeah. I unraveled a whole story
this.
out of it, yes.
So the girls, or the women, the girls of the Pink City.
Yes,
is the title.
The daughters of the Pink
daughters
City.
Of the Pink City. I was like, I don't know if we should be calling them girls. Is it girls? The daughters of the Pink City 2027. Yes. I cannot wait.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I cannot wait. Again, with the brain fog, I needed to circle back. I double down. When I read the text, and at the same time as I'm mom taxiing, I listen to the audiobook. And what really struck me is that your accent is so obviously American, but there's so much identity in the audiobooks, in the accent and the way that your prose is delivered.
Yes.
I love that it is so authentically Indian speak. You even have, in Hindi, you have, what do you call it?
Proverbs.
All the proverbs, You have recipes.
I have glossaries and
glossaries
recipes.
is what I wanted to say. You have glossaries of terminology.
Yeah.
At the back of your book. So we're really learning so much as we go along. Like I say, there's so much authenticity. I'm not going as a reader. This is an American author writing a novel about India.
Right.
That you are so authentically Indian in your writing.
Right.
Was it a surprise to you? What did it feel like? I'm just thinking from an author and a writer's perspective. When you listen to those books that are produced so beautifully, the audiobooks, how do you feel about your writing and hearing that in the voices of the characters? Is that how you heard them?
It's incredible. Okay, so here's how it goes. Harper Audio sent me 5 women narrating the same passage from the Henna Artist in order for me to choose one of them as the main narrator. And I had actually offered myself. I said, well, why don't I read from the book since it's my book? And they said, no, we hire professional narrators, Alka, people who can actually act. And so I heard those 5 voices. I did not hear the voice of Lakshmi in any of them. So I thought, this is my debut novel. I do not want to tell the publisher I'm not happy with these voices because you know what? They're just going to say, well, she's a diva. We don't want to deal with her anymore.
What did they sound like?
They just sounded either too young or not. They didn't have the gravitas in their voice that I wanted for Lakshmi, because Lakshmi is wise and her voice needs to sound like that. So I went to Audible and I listened to a whole bunch of books that were written by South Asian authors, and I found this woman named Sneha Mathan who had narrated one of them. The moment I heard her voice, I said, that's Lakshmi right there. So I went back to Harper Audio and I said, please have her read the same passage. They did, and she was perfect. And then she and I spent about 3 hours on the phone, and we do this now for every book because I have them hire her for every book. She knows all these different accents because she's lived all over the world, and also she is an actress. So even the talking parakeet in the Henna Artist, she got him perfectly,
That's great.
Yeah,
Yes.
she is
She's
amazing.
so good.
She is really good.
What is her name? Can you
Her name
repeat
is Sneha Mathan, and we ended up getting a lot of audiobook recognition as a result of her
yes.
voice.
She has done a wonderful job. As an author, I just thought that must be so overwhelming. Your mother coming over, not having to teach herself the language, you going back, you're being part of this diaspora, and just, I think the audio brings for me a full circle moment. I'm a huge fan of audiobooks, as you can tell.
Oh, yay.
I really, and you won, you were the Cosmopolitan Best Audio Pick, I'm assuming for the Henna Artist.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You've also received extraordinary recognition in recent years for, over and above Reese's Book Club Pick, which I think it just, for so many readers, just puts you on that map, or especially in 2020. I don't know, it was a time that between girlfriends we were all kind of going, did you see Reese's Book Club Pick this month? Maybe just in my kind of close circle, but you were the New York Times bestselling author, an LA Times bestselling author, Toronto Star bestselling author, again, the Cosmopolitan Best Audio Pick. And in 2023, this is what I love the most. You made it to the Forbes 50 over 50
Yes.
list. That's such a big one for me. Thinking about my own mother, thinking about women who become 40 and are cast aside. You're no longer reproductively relevant. Mm-hmm. And a lot of women just feel like they don't have a place.
Yes.
You've broken all of those glass ceilings. You've proved them wrong. Most women now over 40, over 50, over 60 are just getting started.
Yes. I love that. I just love it that so many women are out there doing their own thing. We've also got a lot of women who at a young age are starting businesses. They're getting the money for startups that usually boys used to get. And we've got a lot of women who are breaking ground in the arts, breaking ground in science and math. And I just can't be more pleased. I hope that trend continues upward and not flattening out. I think that every stage of our upward movement, sometimes there is a correction by those who don't want women to be empowered, and then we can gain that momentum again. So the graph kind of goes like this, and I wish it could just project like this, because I do think that women are so smart, so capable, so able to do so many things simultaneously that, I read this this thing on Instagram the other day, and it was, the world is made up of women and her children. That's it. That's everything. That every child on this planet was birthed by a woman. They were given nutrients by that woman. They were raised probably by a woman. And I think that women don't get enough credit for that. We've created the world.
We have. Interestingly, I think there's several threads throughout all of your novels. Reproductive health rights.
Yes.
As a woman, I mean, you live in San Francisco. It's
Yes.
a blue state, I believe. But is it a blue state?
We are very liberal in California.
Is blue state not democratic?
I always forget which one is which.
I think red is Republican. Am I? Yes.
So yes, we're a
I got
blue state.
confirmation from the sidelines. But you do come from a really, we're living in harsh times when it comes to
Yes.
reproductive health rights. This is a
Yes.
thread that pulls through all of your novels.
Yes.
Is it intentional, or is it just something top of mind, or is it just part
Absolutely
of the
intentional.
zeitgeist, really?
Absolutely intentional. I think it is so important for me as a woman who has been able to take advantage of a lot of policies that have helped me in my life to be able to then advocate for other women who can also benefit from those policies. And one of those is every woman deserves to have agency over her body. Every single woman. She should decide when she's ready to give birth. She should decide when she is ready to not give birth. She should decide when she is ready to marry, not marry. Whatever it is in her life that she wants to do, she should have a right to do. And that means that she has to have agency over that body of hers. Nobody else should be able to tell her. They asked a lot of people on the street in America, can you name one law that prohibits men from having agency over their bodies? Mm-hmm. Nobody could name any law. There is no law out there that prevents men from doing that. And yet, women have to be monitored somehow in their bodies? No, that's ridiculous.
Amen. Another recurring thread in your work, which ties largely into this, is reinvention. Women rebuilding themselves often against the odds, which I feel is something that's mirrored in your own life, Alka. Do you think that this is true, that the theme of throughout the Jaipur Trilogy and then 6 Days in Bombay of reinvention, it reflects your own creative journey? Yes.
So I'll give you a little example. When I was 22 and realized that the kids in my graduating class were either going to be doctors or lawyers or engineers, or, they were going on to grad schools and so on. I thought, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I want to do in my life. All I know is I want a creative life somehow. Talked to my dad, and my dad said, right now they have these management training programs with large companies like Procter and Gamble and, the oil companies and so on, and Bank of America. And you could probably get a job there and through the internship figure out what you want to do in life, because they'll put you in many different departments. So I got a job like that with Prudential Insurance Company down in Los Angeles. And I ended up in my second or third week realizing this is not what I want to do in my life. This is absolutely not what I want to do. But I need the money in order to be able to do something else. So I saved every penny. I made my own lunches. I did not go out with everybody when everybody is going out for lunch. I did not go out on Fridays and Saturdays drinking. And so I just thought, okay, I just need to make sure that I have enough money to create a new life for myself. And at the end of 4 years, I said, okay, I am leaving. I quit the company. And by then I had, $14,000 saved up, which is nothing in today's economy, but it was a lot for me then. And I decided to start taking classes in advertising, photography, illustration, let's see, what else? Marketing, all kinds of things that I thought, I had discovered this new vein that I could explore. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go into advertising because that's going to pay me well. I'll be able to pay a mortgage with that, and I'll be able to satisfy my creative needs by creating these commercials.
Yes.
So everybody said to me, you know what, if you want to go into advertising, there's a lot of competition out there for that. You're going to have to start in the mailroom. And I said, no, I'm not. I just graduated from Stanford. I'm not going into any mailroom. I paid a lot of money for that education. So then they told me that, you can't take some of these classes that you want to take because there are prerequisites involved. I said, I'll just go talk to the instructor. I went to talk to the instructors and they said, oh, yeah, you seem like a mature student. Yeah, you can absolutely handle this course. So I developed a portfolio at the end of 2 years of taking various classes all throughout. I cherry-picked the classes and the instructors. And then I thought, okay, I have no contacts within the advertising industry. How am I going to get a job? I wanted to get a job with a major international advertising agency because I wanted to work with big money, millions of dollars in creative work.
You knew what you wanted.
Well, I did, yeah. And so I made a portfolio with a letter that I sent out to all these creative directors in San Francisco at the large agencies. And the letter was ostensibly from my older brother. Of course, he never even knew I wrote it. But it was signed by him, and it said, this is my sister, Alka. She is 28 years old. She has forgotten to get married and have children. And if you can't give her a job or at least an interview, we might have to take care of her for the rest of her life. Now, this was a bold move. I had no idea what was going to happen, but I ended up getting 4 interviews out of it and a job at one of the major firms in San Francisco downtown. So that is how I started my advertising career. I think at any particular time in my life, when I have taken a big risk, it has always paid off because the most anybody can do to you is say no. The most.
Alka Joshi, author, advertiser, strategist. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you really quick and lastly about your movie.
Oh, yes.
Because another pivot is that you went from author to screenwriter.
Well, I would like to say I'm a screenwriter, but I realized after taking some classes that screenwriting might take me another 10 years to write that first
That's okay,
screenplay.
Then. You know now.
Yes,
right?
I
know.
do.
So
I do.
What is happening with the Henna Artist? Give me the skinny.
Okay, so there are producers who are developing the Henna Artist for a feature film, and Frida Pinto will star as Lakshmi, which will be really lovely. She is very invested in the film and wants to see it made and in a way that Downton Abbey is sort of shot and filmed and produced. So that's what we're aiming for. Other than that, I can't tell you too much because I'm not involved in the writing of it. But hopefully by the end of this year, we will have a script and maybe be able to start production next year if all goes well. But we're crossing our fingers and toes.
In the meantime, we have 4 books.
Yes.
We have The Henna Artist. We have The Secret Keeper of Jaipur. We have The Perfumist of Paris. We have 6 Days in Bombay. And we have one on the way, The Daughters of the Pink City. Guys, you've got a lot to get through. You'll swim through it, as I did. You'll be living in these magical cities with these magical women. Alka Joshi, keep writing, keep pivoting, keep strategizing. You are an inspiration, and I'm so grateful to have had you on Current Read.
Thank you. Thanks so much for this. I really had a great time. Thank you.